Welcome, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm the Grey Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Sunday, February 1st, 2026, full moon in Leo on the horizon. When we get the first two cards in our 5-card spread today, first two cards flying out, we've got a transverse 7 of Swords, and the second card we've got right now is Chariot in its reversal. Let's talk a little bit about navigating through circumstances and situations by which we recognize and identify, and we work through things with a sense of proportionality. It's a little bit, I want to describe something that we may be seeing that's happening right now. And I just want to help you if you're working through this. It's very easy in this energy to get ahead of the self, right? No looking before you leap type of energy is what we see is so important right now. Being able to navigate circumstances and situations with a sense of energetic pacing, right? Pacing and placing, pacing and placing. Because, and we were continuing to talk about this, and we were having this as a continuation of the reading that we were basically having yesterday. What happens in the experience or in the modality by which we get energetically in the space, like working through the space of not getting in our own way, is building into the context of healthy manifestations by which we articulate, right? We put our manifestation goals out to the world, and then we allow the ability of seeing all the ways that something can energetically arrive to us. And it's a continuation of understanding why it's so important not to get too pressed in the crush of what we energetically expect or anticipate, right? Because in the space by which we have a manifestation is often the articulation or the arrival in terms of being able to build into that space. It's a lot of that ask and you shall receive type of energy. And I think that it's having a really big impact right now on these new relationships that are coming together, specifically the world relationships. And what were we identifying as those world relationships? These are the relationships that have been coming together since the time of that Capricorn new moon that we experienced up until the present. Now, these relationships, the reason that we're effectively identifying these as such is the continuation in being able to identify and recognize what the work that we're doing in terms of building into healthy relationship. It's the conversation that articulates that when we're working towards healthy partnership, we don't describe or ascribe the fact that being in partnership is going to bring about a bliss state. Now, I know that sounds a little counter oppositional, but let's talk a little bit about it. Why do we want to be very wary in relationality to not articulating that relationship will instantaneously bring a bliss state? Because it's an understanding that in a healthy manifestation, we bring the bliss with us everywhere we go, right? This is often what happens. A healthy manifestation goal changes you in accordance of moving towards it. So that modality or that experience, what often happens in the space by which someone sees something and desires something, right? It's the energy that goes, I'm miserable right now, but if I had that relationship, right, I would be ecstatic. I would be happy. No, you wouldn't. Right? You're the same person that goes in that arrives into the manifestation goal. So if you're not in a state of bliss when you come into a relationship, there's no amount of bliss that you're going to find in the relationship that's going to fix the fact that you're not in a state of bliss before you enter into one. The joy that we find in a manifestation goal, it's like manifestation goals and relationships are BYOJ. You bring your own joy with you, right? And the modality by which we work to effectively create that sense of joy within us allows us to be able to find it outside of the self. So we see that there's two different modalities that we identify and recognize in relationality to doing the work to build into healthy partnership right now. I see a lot of energy doing that important work of staying centered, healthy centering in self, right? The modality of being able to work towards the space of creating, right? Building the world of energetic bliss around the self that allows one to arrive to the relationship, right? Building into healthy relationship is a state of preparation And the preparation that we build into it is finding our bliss outside of one. So I keep on getting that this is a lot of the energy that's building into that modality and articulating the fact. And this is why we understand that it's never selfish to do that work, because the gift that we find in finding our energetic bliss allows us to arrive into partnership by which we bring bliss to one another. Well, I also see that there are relationships right now that are coming together, working through, and I keep on getting this, a lot of conversation as it relates to past relationships and what one felt was energetically missing. I'm even going to describe this here. I almost see some of these relationships potentially talking about the fact that they feel like they left a partnership by which another person articulated that something was missing, failing to recognize that they always felt that way, right? Like, this is why I keep wondering, we do our own work to navigate our je ne sais quoi, because the modality by which we don't feel energetically turned around by it, right? Like, none of that, like, I keep on seeing, like, this is what we articulate in relationality to navigating through those points of being able to recognize and understand. There's a lot of that energy that it's effectively articulating upon I keep wondering, working through energetic relationships by which another person articulated that they felt like something was missing, failing for that energy to fail to recognize that that person always feels that way, right? It's like that person always feels that way. Right? It's like this is what happens when we don't do the work and being able to fully recognize or identify our own energetic lack space. Now, this brings us to the center card for today's spread. And this is going to bring us back towards, this is going to be reading into the moon relationships. And the moon relationships were effectively coming together between the time between the time of that Capricorn new moon energy that we just came out of. So January 18th up until this fall, which was September 6, 2026. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Or 25. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now. A lot of Five of Cups energy. And I want to point this out. You know, the thing I like about this energy right now that we're seeing is it's working through. I keep on getting it's working through the space and these moon relationships. I just want to articulate this. I feel like they're being very, very protective over the work that they've been able to do in relationality to building into healthy relationship. I keep on getting protective for a reason. And the reason I keep on seeing this is, and there's something really valuable and important that is happening with some of these moon relationships is, and I want to describe this. Remember how I said that these relationships are finally having a moment by which they feel like they can catch their breath. They're finally having some kind of modality by which they feel like something is energetically settling down enough to be able to get to know one another. This is a lot of the energy that is potentially feeling the space by which they're navigating a breakthrough. But the breakthrough that we keep on identifying that's happening in the context of some of these relationships is the ability to see, right? The ability to see energetic triggers as it relates to the work by which the full extent of what it is that they're energetically healing from. And the modality by which I keep on getting these relationships are being so protective because they've recognized and identified the mutual effort that they do in terms of creating peace for one another, right? The identification that working towards peace is rarely peaceful, right? It's the observation of allowing the context of being able to resolve what often feels unresolvable within us. I just keep on seeing that a lot of this energy is working through those modalities and circumstances. But even in the process by which they're effectively articulating that, they're almost like, I feel like they're revealing more to each other in terms of things that they've experienced before, right? And a lot of that energy that I'm seeing is potentially, and I feel like in a way, it almost feels like this full moon is allowing the context of being able to ease any kind of feeling of energetic sorrow. And why do we get sorrow? Because sorrow is often working into, and remember, and this is where it moves back into some of those world relationships that we were seeing that are coming together right now. Sorrow is often working through the space of understanding and identifying that when I keep on hearing, when we bring sorrow into a relationship, right? It's often the modality by which our counterpart feels the weight of not being able to resolve that sorrow for us, right? And that's the hard part with sorrow. Sorrow is not something that we can effectively heal within one another, right? It's something that we help each other with, is what I keep on getting. And so for a lot of that energy, the ability to hold space for each other is what I keep on seeing is one of the prioritization points of these energies, because they've navigated, and this is the gift that happens, right? The modality by which we build into the security of the self, by which we can navigate holding sorrow for another and not feel like that sorrow is directed towards us. And I keep on getting that for some of those moon relationships, basically articulating the fact that they felt like they were they're healing from relationships by which they felt that they couldn't be their authentic self, was often the modality by which I keep on seeing them often feeling like, often I keep on hearing a healthy relationship can navigate the fact that we have moods, right? It doesn't require us, and this is why they're moon relationships, right? They're recognizing and identifying the space of not feeling energetically triggered by one another's phases. So a lot of the work that we're effectively identifying there is a lot of that energy that's working through the ability of being able to open up more to one another, specifically and particularly because they recognize the quality by which they're not feeling energetically triggered in terms of seeing each other in sorrowful states, right? They know the gift of holding space. Now, this brings us to those temperance relationships. And the temperance relationships were effectively coming together and between the time of June 20th up until so the summer of this year during the solstice period up until Mercury and Venus stationing direct behind Neptune, which happened March 14th, 2025. I tried to pull 2 cards coming out. We've got 3 cards. And the cards we have coming through right now are the Sun card in its upright, the Queen of Wands in its reversal. Woo, look at this. Woo, look at this. I like this. And the King of Cups in its upright. And let's talk a little bit about this energy here, because this is what I got to tell you guys, we're going to go through a little bit of a lesson here in relationality to what it feels like to be in the modality of working through counterpart energy. And this is what's nice about counterpart energy, right? Do you think and this is why you got to work so hard in making sure that you're not always energetically lockstep, right? Because here's the thing about it. Counterpart, the strength in the word counterpart is the word counter, okay? Counterpart, right? It's the yin and the yang. It's the modality by which we effectively show up, and we don't need to be in the same energetic state as one another, right? This is what we talk about with complementary relationships, right? So we see that this is a lot of the temperance relationships working upon the fact of appreciating one another because they feel like they energetically complement one another, right? And look at this energetic reflection point that we see here. And in a way, right? And I like to point this out. This is the modality or the experience by which we recognize, look at masculine here, right? We've got masculine energy. This is a conversation of what it means. And I told you, these temperance relationships focus on the lessons of the temperance card, which is the observation of the sensitivity of effectively the mutual effort that pays off in big ways. But it's not just mutual effort, it's the effort of adaptability, right? Not the space by which another person inhabits, but how you effectively show up in relationality to when another person energetically lacks, right? It's like, and this is what we like, because this is how masculine and feminine in this modality, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. This is how complementary counterparts arrive to each other, right? If masculine is in the modality of being energetically emotional, Feminine knows how to step up and be the force of energetic strength. When feminine is feeling less than energetically supportive, masculine can effectively nourish the feminine in the modality of being able to give them that energetic encouragement point. So we see here that this is a lot of the energy that works towards that sense. And I keep on hearing healthy attunement is the modality by which we don't have to energetically feel exactly always in the same exact modality, but the ability of being able to articulate what feels energetically complementary allows for, like, I keep on hearing it allows for that positive energetic reciprocity, right? Being able to effectively arrive with what is energetically needed. And this is why it's so important that we often build into embodiment when it comes to healthy relationship, right? Because often when you're feeling, right? Often when you're feeling like something is missing, you don't say, "Where is it?" You say, "How can I show up with it?" Right? Like, I've already taken care of it. Right? And that's like that is the energetic relief, right? That is the beautiful attention and relief that we have. And this is often why, but we only get that, right? We only get that when we allow the modality by which we surrender our egoic state, right? Because it's the modality of being able to attenuate, right? Is the space by which we can energetically predict. And we cannot be predictive for each other if we're overly energetically controlling, right? And this is why we see that often relationships by which energy hasn't healed their controlling tendencies often feel an energetic lack space. Because when another person is too energetically controlling, what you're really saying to the universe is, I don't want you to energetically predict or anticipate needs because I'm going to take it as a violation instead of an energetic gift, right? So this is the energy that gets that. And they build into the context of having the healthy egoic state that allows them to become the energetic delivery system for one another. Continuing to get clarification between the Seven of Swords in its transverse in combination with that Chariot card in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify, please? We've got the Three of Cups in its upright. So what are we seeing there with the Three of Cups in its upright? A lot of the energy that we see, and this is moving us back into those world relationships that are happening right now. And a lot of these relationships that we're seeing are working into the context of being able to build into the commonality of shared experience is what I keep on getting. And there's something really important and vital there that we're identifying and recognizing. And it has a lot to do with the modality of being able to articulate that and this was actually coming through in yesterday's reading. This was coming through in yesterday's reading, right? The gift that vulnerability is, right? The modality of understanding and recognizing how energetically precious vulnerability is. Because when we understand and recognize how precious vulnerability is, we work very fundamentally to protect it. And that starts, and this is why we have to heal our heart space, because it starts proportionately with how well we have healed our own understanding of how precious our vulnerability is, right? Often the problem with trauma is it sometimes builds false narratives within us. Trauma wants to build false stories inside of us that often create the space by which we energetically despair, right? We're energetically vulnerable in a place by which our vulnerability is not held preciously. And what is the false story that trauma tries to articulate? The mistake being the vulnerability, right? I should never be energetically vulnerable again. Or those modalities by which we try to be energetically honest and our honesty isn't received as the gift that it is. What is the false narrative that the trauma wants to articulate? See what you get for being honest. Bet you're not going to do that again. But the modality by which we understand that that is the sound of trauma, right? The modality by which we recognize that trauma tries to articulate that being able to be our vulnerable, authentic self is somehow an anathema or something energetically negative. This is why we talk towards the fact of understanding that when we're building into a healthy space, we hold our vulnerability energetically preciously. We recognize it for the gift that it is, because in vulnerability, we find possibility, right? You cannot have possibility unless you have vulnerability, because rigidity is control, and control does not allow for the stagnancy. It allows for the space by which everything stagnates. But when we're energetically vulnerable, we see possibilities. We can see possibilities in the world around us. We can build towards that positive relationship. We can build towards the positive changes that we see in ourselves, but only if we hold compassion for our vulnerability. And this is why I see a lot of that energy, two different modalities right now in solitude. I see a lot of energy that's working on healing relationship, by healing first and foremost the relationship to the self. Because when we come into the modality by which we articulate and say, I'm going to heal my relationship, I'm going to do something wild and audacious, I'm going to start seeing my vulnerability as a gift. I'm going to start perceiving how others receive that vulnerability. And the perception in terms of how they receive that vulnerability tells me everything I need to know as to whether that is a safe place for me to be, whether that is a safe place whether that is a safe place to grow a relationship. Then we look at our vulnerability as a calibration point that allows us to arrive into the energetic sanctuary of healthy partnership. And so we see that for a lot of the energy facilitating and building upon those modalities, it starts first with, like, I keep on hearing that very heavy lifting, like the very heavy lifting, the very heavy lifting that occurs in the modality by which one says, first and foremost, my vulnerability is a gift. And I recognize where it is held preciously shows me where I should direct my efforts and energy. And we also see that for a lot of those relationships, building into the context of new relationship, I feel like that is the sense of energetic amplification of joy that we're effectively recognizing right now, right? Those modalities or those experiences by which the energy is effectively, and I like to describe this, the interconnectedness that we effectively arrive to when we're building into the energetic fabric of possibility in relationality to what it is that we're trying to do and the energetic world around the self. And for a lot of the energy that's effectively facilitating or doing that work right now, that adaptability, that articulation, that appreciation for being able to effectively foresee and effectively articulate, I feel like this is a lot of energy that is I feel like this is what I mean in terms of like this is what I get in some of these relationships that are coming together right now. It's allowing, I keep on hearing, it's the vulnerability that serves as shield, right? It's the vulnerability that serves as shield. It's the identification point of being able to heal and working into the space by which they're articulating to each other what they're working on getting better at, right? They're like, it's giving me a lot of this energy by which they're saying, like, I am every day, I keep on hearing, and this is what we get a little bit with that, like Uranus and Taurus in retrograde, right? Every day, a step out of the comfort zone builds a new comfort zone, right? The ability to identify and recognize how we do that work allows for the ability of effectively being energetically adaptable in terms of how it is that we work towards it. Now, this is a continuation point moving towards a lot of that energy that's moving deeper into partnership right now, moving back towards those moon relationships, clarification between that Chariot card in its reversal in combination with the Five of Cups in its upright. We've got here the Five of Swords in its upright. There's a lot of five energy on the table right now. And we got to talk a little bit about the five energy, because the five energy, the five energy is often working through, right? It's working through roughness. Five can often be a number that builds into the space of feeling energetically challenged, right? It's a challenging space. But the thing I keep on getting, and this is what we're effectively identifying, is especially when we see a lot of that five energy, it's the conversation of being able to identify and recognize. Like, I keep on getting that there's a lot of energy right now these moon relationships are working through a lot of nostalgia, right? And we're gonna have a lot of this nostalgia coming up right now. We've got Neptune and we've got two planets. We got Neptune and Saturn that are about to move into Aries. And every time these energies move into Aries, it's like sentimental city, right? It's like a lot of that modality of looking towards nostalgia. But the one thing I want to articulate, and this is the thing that we have to remember about nostalgia is distorted, because nostalgia, the brain is really bad at holding pain. The brain is very bad at holding the memory of pain, and this is often why the past always feels, right? The past is always a beautiful place where nothing hurt, because the modality by which we often gaze upon the past is, and keep on hearing, this is why we don't get overly fixated on the past, because the modality by which we recognize that the brain is not good at storing pain, right? And then we have that sentimentality by which we look at the past and we recognize that the quality and nature of nostalgia is the modality of something going into the storage system of the mind, right? And the storage system of the mind is where everything is beautiful and nothing hurts. Then it allows us to be able to look at nostalgia with a sense of proportionality, is what I keep on hearing. And this is what we often get, and this is what I like to point out with, like, the 5 of cups with the 5 of swords, right? Right? It's nostalgia with the proportionality of reality, right? Recognizing and identifying that, and I like to point out, like, all we have is the moment of the present, right? In the moment of the present, everything is wonderful and awful, and the modality by which we put our energetic force of intention, right? Not allowing ourselves to feel defeated in the process by which we feel frustrated, but allowing that perseverance, right? I keep on getting, it's a gift, like, it's a gift that we give each other in terms of being able to energetically articulate, and even in the modality by which we articulate the past, right? Because there's a lot of this energy that I see is working through the mutual journey of working to energetically resolve a past that was energetically painful, but that has brought them into a profound partnership. And I like this about this energy, because I can see this energy that builds into the space of being able, like, I keep on hearing these moon relationships. I keep wondering, they understand that you can walk and chew gum in relationality to feeling the space of loving, like, loving where you are is what I keep on getting. Like, absolutely being in a state of loving the modality by which you found partnership, but also, and this is what happens, right? This is why we talk about sometimes the perfect partnership unlocks a lot of trauma that we've been carrying, right? Because it's the modality by which and this is why often, like, when we enter into healthy partnership, some of the first things we feel is sorrow, right? Because it's the sorrow of what we've been carrying within ourselves that is finally able to be seen, because we're experiencing the opposite of the pain that we've been carrying. And so I feel like for a lot of that energy, they may be articulating to each other that even in the process of being relationship is unlocking trauma, which is why they're potentially feeling emotional. But it's the energy that says, I'm feeling emotional because this is the place I finally felt safe to be, so is what I keep on hearing. Continuing and moving towards those temperance relationships. 2 cards, please. Clarification between that 5 of cups and the sun card in its upright. We've got here the 3 of cups in its reversal. So, fun fact, if you follow me for a bit, this keeps on happening. This is so Aquarian what's happening too, which is what I love about it. So one thing that you notice is that I actually work with 2 different Smith-Waite decks, and occasionally, and this is the second time it's happened this week, occasionally a card from my other deck will sneak into the deck that I'm currently pulling. This happened 2 days ago when we were doing the daily collective, and we had 2 We had not one, but two sword cards come out. We had two Page of Swords. One was upright and one was in its reversal. And so here is the uncanny correlation of that same reading, because we have the same thing happening right now, almost in the exact same position that we found those swords in, but we have it here reflective in the upright Three of Cups in its reversal and the reverse Three of Cups in its reversal. If you are a tarot nerd and would like to see today's spread, I would encourage you to make sure to head over to the stack where I'll be posting a photo of it. And the thing we identify and recognize in relationality to working through circumstances or situations by which we effectively identify and articulate what it is that we're working on. I keep on seeing the Three of Cups in its upright and the Three of Cups in its reversal is the ability to identify and I want to describe, there's something about this energy right now that can feel somewhat polarizing. Okay? We see that even now with the reflection point of the King of Cups and the Queen of Wands in its reversal. But when we identify and recognize that when we are energetically working through things, the modality by which we give things time to energetically change is, and this is why we articulate or we speak upon things, right? When we identify, when we give another person the gift of patience, we allow the context by which they can recognize and identify an energetic mistake, right? It's the modality by which, and this is why we also like, remember we were going through a lot of that Capricorn new moon energy, and I said, please make sure that you're not assuming things, right? Because the ability or the identification point of working through energetic assumption, right, can often be the space by which we don't feel like we have the full energetic optics to things. And this is often why, right? This is often why we give each other the gift of patience, right? The modality by which, and I like to point this out, you know, integrity, I keep on hearing integrity runs true. And why do we identify that integrity runs true? Because it's the modality and the experience by which we understand and recognize what feels energetically integrated is often navigating through circumstances or situations by which we apply our energetic force of effort towards things, right? And the modality by which we effectively work through that is the ability of giving each other opportunities to energetically mature. And I think that this is important right now as it relates to temperance relationships, because we're getting back into the temperance relationships. And I see that for a lot of the energy, working through those modalities and experiences, it's a continuation of having conversations in relationality to working through maturation. And the ability by which we recognize and identify what feels energetically maturating is often the identification point of being able to effectively recognize or identify a blind spot in the self, right? And one of the things that we see here, and I want to keep on pointing this out because this was coming through over the last few days. I feel like there's something heavy that's happening right now for some of these temperance relationships in noticing they're noticing walls that they had to energetically erect in past relationship cycles wherein it was not safe to be their authentic self. And a lot of that work is so difficult because I keep on getting that for a lot of those relationships, being able to effectively identify and articulate to another the shape of that work, right? Having to energetically heal, right? I almost see like this energy that feels like they're almost apologizing to one another, like for the fact that they have these walls that they had to energetically erect in themselves at a time by which it was not safe for them to be their authentic self. And so for a lot of that energy, they're building into they're building into dissolving those energetic walls, or they're building into the space by which they're finding more confidence in terms of feeling energetically like authentic and open. But I keep on getting a lot of that. I keep on getting a lot of that openness is like it's working through the conversation on the trauma by which they had to navigate something. So I get like there's a lot of that emotionality here. And I almost see that this energy kind of working through it in a way by which they're able to effectively have perspective in relationality to where they feel triggered. And it's not even this fact that they're like trying to remove the trigger entirely, but the modality by which they're making each other aware that it's there is what I keep on hearing. Continuing to get clarification between our Sun card in its upright, the King of Cups in its upright, and the Queen of Wands in its reversal. And this is getting us back towards those world relationships. One card to clarify. The King of Pentacles in its reversal. There's a lot of king cards here. So let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing. The King of Pentacles in its reversal, in combination with those court cards that we see, is often working into, and I feel like this is what's difficult for some of these relationships that are coming into partnership right now. There's a lot of this energy that is healing from another person's shadow work. And why do we see that the energy is healing from another person's shadow work, right? It's the definition. I keep on hearing this is energy that's healing from somebody being able to articulate that something is energetically, I keep on hearing the ineffable thing that is energetically missing, that often talks about another person not being in a satisfactory place, is what I keep on hearing. Let's talk about the lack space, right? We've all got a lack space within us, right? We always have, there's something that we energetically carry that is often the space by which we feel, right? We feel like the energetic yearn for something, and it's hard to be able to articulate what that is. You have to understand that that is the core wound that we arrive here with, okay? That is what effectively makes sure that we energetically survive. We spend our whole life trying to get rid of that, right? Because there is a trigger in us that is the earliest trigger that says, I need to scream really loudly and demand something in order to persist, right? And the sooner you recognize that that is the original core birth wound, right? Like that is the wound that we arrive here with, then when you recognize it within the self, you effectively address it as such, right? It is the energetic, like again, because you have to imagine, right? When you first arrive here and you don't have any idea of anything, right? You literally have to have something within you that yearns for something ineffable, right? Because you don't have any thoughts. You're brand new. Okay, you're brand new. You need yearning for the ineffable is what keeps you in a survival state when you're energetically new, and it's a space by which it is loud, it screams forth in order to be energetically addressed, right? And when we recognize that for the birth wound, right, when we recognize that for something that is energetically integrated in the context of being alive, then we often recognize it as such and we don't apply it to our relationship, right? And I literally see some energy right now that is either healing, right? They're either actively healing in us trying to find their energetic bliss, having to heal from a modality by which another person tried to move away from them, articulating that they just, I don't know, it felt like something's missing. But they always feel that way because they've never healed their birth wound, is what I keep on hearing. They've never healed they've never healed the FOMO birth wound that articulates the fact of feeling, oh, it's just like I feel like there's something more, being like, no, that's your, like that is the original core wound that you're allowing to hold dominance and sway over your whole energetic existence. And so effectively, I feel like a lot of the energy working through that is coming into the observation. And that's what's difficult about that, because you can usually tell energy in that modality because it's very fickle, right? It always wants what it doesn't energetically have. And it's like the fickle pickle, which is the modality by which another person doesn't recognize the energetic birth wound that always makes them effectively yearn for something that's energetically missing. And then they see things outside of the self and they go, oh, that'll fix it. But it never does, because they haven't done the work to address the fact that they've got a lack space within them. And so that's a lot of the energy that's effectively either healing from situations and circumstances. And what's hard about that is when we hurt each other with that core wound, we make each other feel like we are not sufficient. right? How can you usually tell that you're healing from a relationship like that? It is the feeling of someone that tries to articulate to you that something about you doesn't feel energetically sufficient. But I keep on seeing that this is the energy that's effectively healing from those modalities, being like, oh, that is what that person does, right? Like that's the modality by which they effectively navigate circumstances. And I feel like that is the modality by which they're working through healing. And this is what we talk about with vulnerability, right? The healthy vulnerability is built upon, I keep on hearing, healthy relationship is what you make with it, right? It's the ability to feel that energetic sense of lack and being able to fill it internally. And the more that we're able to fill our own cups is often how beautiful our relationships become, because it's a modality by which we don't look to each other to be our source of energetic bliss. And so I've got a lot of this energy that's working there, again, building into the context of finding their energetic bliss in order to facilitate healthy partnership, while simultaneously new relationships. And I like this about these new relationships I'm seeing. They're not necessarily looking to each other to fulfill an energetic void, but rather the ability of identifying someone that is just as invested in, I keep on hearing, the integration of something in a way of being able to see how beautiful something can become, right? It is the beauty of a relationship that's built upon energetic expansion, or it's built upon the modality of, again, not not focusing on I need, but I want to energetically give. Now this brings us back towards those moon relationships, clarification between our 3 of cups in its upright in combination with our 5 of swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our 7 of pentacles in its reversal. And what are we seeing with the 7 of pentacles in its reversal? A lot of the energy that we're seeing right now with the 7 of Pentacles in its reversal is the like I keep on hearing the space by which we take the space by which we take positive energetic direction is the modality by which we're perpetually working to energetically smooth things out, is what I keep on getting. And this is what I love about these moon relationships is, and I keep on getting, it's very much the space by which they themselves are have made things easy, right? But this is what we talk about with the gift of ease, right? Because the gift of ease is, and this is always like the disambiguation point, right? Like the modality by which we see ease. Do you know how hard it is to make something look easy? Like, do you know how hard it is to you know how hard it is to make something look easy? And there are those that see someone working very hard to make something be easy, and then in their ignorance will articulate that it's energetic luck, right? And there's no, I keep wondering, there's no luck. It's always about the application of energetic effort that we bring to things, right? The modality by which we energetically arrive and allow for that modality of seeing how energetically smooth something can be, or the way by which we effectively facilitate upon that. And I feel like this is what these energies appreciate with one another, right? Even when it's energetically difficult, they focus upon what feels like it can refine the situation or circumstance, right? They're always working to mutually smooth things out. And even in the modality of doing though so, I see that that is a lot of, like, I keep on hearing, like, that's a lot of, like, it's giving me a lot of that, like, cool energy. But the reason I keep on hearing it's cool is because, right, they work really hard not to allow circumstances or situations to get the better of them, right? It's the modality, it's a continuation of understanding and recognizing that that smoothness or that easement that we bring to each other is a gift, right? Because when we look at it like that, right, then we feel like we become the source of each other's peace, right? So I feel like there's a lot of that energy that's working in that capacity. And even in the conversation of doing so, I feel like they're finally reaching a point by which they can start to enjoy some of that peace that they've been working for towards with each other for so long. Now, this brings us to the temperance relationships. Clarification between that 5 of Swords energy and the 3 of Cups in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify, please? We've got here the King of Wands in its upright. And I just need to point out again, if you are a tarot nerd, make sure that you look at today's spread. We've got 3 of the 4 king cards out on the table right now. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about this right now. Okay. Because we're going to talk a little bit about this energy. And I want to describe what we're seeing here. And this is moving us back into those temperance relationships because it is the observation of understanding what feels like is energetically sustainable when we hold I keep wondering when we are effectively identifying and recognizing and energetically appreciating the work that we give to each other, but not just the work that we give to each other, the work that is energetically facilitated in relationality to the connections that are around us, right? And I feel like there's something really important. I feel like there's something really important about those temperance relationships because those temperance relationships effectively identify, and I told you, remember, it's very much pillar energy, mutual effort that allows anything to be possible so long as the work is mutual. And so the modality by which we effectively articulate what it is that we need allows for the arrival point by which it can be brought forth towards us. And I feel like there's a lot of this energy, particularly these temperance relationships, that are working at getting better at communicating upon their energetic desire. Because, and this is the hard part about these relationships, they're moving deep within divine union and they're learning that it's okay. I keep wondering, they're learning that they're in a healthy relationship because their needs are not gonna create fire, right? It's the modality by which it's the space of building into the space by which they're energetically supportive, and the modality by which they communicate that allows all things to be energetically possible, because it's the modality of effectively being able to energetically work together that allows the experience of being able to, I keep on hearing, like, amplify or articulate what that energetic force of intention is. And I feel like the hard part about that is I would not be surprised if this is an emotional time that we're seeing right now, right? I almost feel like there's something about this energy that got tripped, like that feels like they energetically tripped, like it's like I feel like they almost didn't see an energetic blind spot within themselves, right? But this is the gift of healthy relationship. Healthy relationship, and this is why it's so important that we heal our egos before we come into partnership. Healthy relationship will be able to allow oneself to see oneself clearly. And the modality by which we're able to see all sides of ourselves allow us to effectively energetically perfect ourselves. So I feel like this is the energy that almost identifies and builds into the context of relationship that says, I love you because through you, I am energetically comprehensive. But we cannot become comprehensive unless we do the work of healing our egos because our egos don't want to take any notes. Continuing to get clarification between our 3 of Cups in its reversal in combination with that King of Pentacles in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our 4 of Wands in its upright. I like to see the 4 of Wands here, especially with so much of this 5 energy that we've got going on here. Let's talk a little bit about this 4 of Wands energy because the 4 of Wands energy, and we pulled this directly as we were moving back into those world relationships, the understanding of being able, and I keep on hearing this is something that's getting very, like, this is where we see the connection point between the energy that is deep within divine union and also the energy that's coming working in solitude right now. Your manifestation goals are your ultimate form of protection. Your manifestation goals for what you desire in relationship are your ultimate are your ultimate form of protection. Because if you are moving towards someone that has the same manifestation goals as you, and you articulate what those manifestation goals are, an emphatic, enthusiastic yes should be the only sound that you hear in that modality, right? The absolute energetic delight by which we navigate into a relationship and all we hear is an enthusiastic yes is what we see, and that's why I feel like that's a lot of energy that is working not only on finding their bliss in solitude, but they're working better in terms of identifying and specifying exactly what it is that they're seeking in relationship, because how can you receive an emphatic yes unless you can articulate upon exactly what you're looking for? So I feel like a lot of that energy is this is that Leo full moon energy, right? Says you want to do you wanna find that perfect relationship? You wanna find that perfect partnership, right? Start holding your vulnerability with a sense of preciousness, right? Identify when you give it to someone, how they receive it tells you everything you need to know as to whether you're safe in that relationship. And further, have the bravery to articulate what your desire is, because anything that isn't an enthusiastic yes is something that you should energetically walk away from. And I feel like for a lot of those new relationships that are coming together right now, I can almost see the energy being like, I'm getting better. Like I can see the energy going, and this is that 7 of pentacles in its reversal, right? The energy saying, "I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm being more authentic than I have ever been before." And I feel like even in the space by which I keep on hearing it's like the energy that's almost apologizing as they're trying to do something in a way that they haven't before, but the modality by which another person experiences that concern, right? The concern of someone that cares. I can see this energy that understands and resonates upon the concern that we feel in relationality to someone learning to do something in a different way. Now, this brings us back to those moon relationships, clarification between our 7 of Pentacles in its reversal and the King of Wands in its upright. Oh, we got 7 of Wands here. And again, we've got a lot of the blending that's happening right now in relationality to the other deck. So we've got double cards right now that we're seeing. We've got 2 different 7 of swords that are on the table right now. But this is also important because I see that this is what's so vital and significant in relationality to these moon relationships. I feel like these moon relationships in the past felt like they had to hide the fact that they were sad about the way past relationships ended. And I keep on seeing that this is the energy that gets it, right? This is the energy that understands that you can carry sadness for what's occurred while still holding the full amplification of joy for where you are. This is the energy that simply understands the nature of sorrow, does not, I keep on hearing, they understand that the joy of today does not erase the sorrow of the past, but rather it builds into the modality of the gravity of understanding and recognizing the value and importance of what it is that we've energetically found. And so I feel like that's beautiful because I keep on seeing that this is the energy that feels that energetic connection, not just in the joy that they're able to express to one another, but in the ability to articulate upon a past that hurt them and not feeling energetically triggered by someone talking about in the modality of trying to heal by expressing and articulating upon something that energetically hurt them, right? This is very, very compassionate energy. It's the space by which they can hold space for both, which identifies the stability that we feel in relationality to our own security, right? This is why we talk about the gift of being centered in self is that when another person expresses sorrow, we don't get twisted up and experience that as a rejection point. We understand that that is effectively them expressing the fact that they've been carrying pain upon something for a long time. Now, this brings us to those temperance relationships, clarification between that King of Wands energy and the Four of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Pentacles. There's a lot of pentacle energy on the table today. I like it. I like to see the Seven of Swords with the Eight of Pentacles because it is a conversation in what feels energetically productive. And then this is what I keep on seeing, and this was coming through again in yesterday's reading, which is the amplification of basically saying that when you are in a space of energetic revelry, or when you're in a space by which you're working towards the identification point of doing something important, right? You have to be able to carry a proportionality of rage and joy in both hands, right? Because and this is what we identify. Rage, right? Rage often creates the space by which we feel energetically burnt out. But when we're able to transmit our rage into joy, it's the modality by which we articulate that our joy cannot energetically be taken from us. And the modality by which we articulate the space by which I keep on hearing the energy that articulates that in temperance modality. This is how strong that energy is, which is they're working into the modality of holding energetic frustration upon things, even in the context by which they're trying to create joy for one another. And I feel like that is the modality by which they articulate upon the fact that joy is a gift and that we protect it and that we work to facilitate it, even as we are articulating our own energetic frustration in relationality to energetic situations or circumstances that are occurring around the self. And I keep on getting that for a lot of the energy doing that work right now. I almost see the energy that is working through the fact that they articulate that there's something about the experience that they're feeling that makes it hard to be joyful. And what is counterpart articulating to them, saying we have to be joyful, right? The modality by which we articulate and navigate and state that joy that we carry is not something that another can take from us, is the amplification of hope that we put forth towards a better tomorrow. So I feel like there's a lot of that energy that works through those modalities. And the hard part about it is like going through, and I like to describe this, like going through a full moon in Leo can often feel like a heart opening because it's a modality by which we work through the energetic frustration, but then we allow it to build us into further the importance of energetic celebration. Final card for today's spread, between the 7 of Swords in its upright in combination with our 8 of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. There's another King of Wands. So this is really wild that we got so many of the cards from the other deck that have fallen into this particular deck. But I think that there's also something very energetically important that we're seeing in relationality to a lot of the pairs that we're identifying in this spread today, because the modality by which we recognize and identify, and I feel like this is bringing us back into a lot of those world relationships that we see that are happening right now, is the modality and the experience by which we understand, right? And this is a conversation on why it's so important for us to heal from our controlling tendencies, because the modality by which you understand, right? And this is the thing, and this was coming through in yesterday. When you think about the world, right? When you think, and it's also about a conversation through healing from falsity of perfection. Because when you think about a universe that is always paying attention, and you desire to be perfect, right? What are you going to find around the self? Competition, right? When you are to the universe and say, I desire to be perfect, then get ready to find competition in everything that you see, right? The modality by which we articulate upon what feels energetically like and at best is the space by which we often feel isolated by our manifestation goals, right? A healthy manifestation goal is one that is energetically mutually shared. And the comprehension and being able to articulate and define that is often why we feel that our manifestation goals are blessed. Because if you're ever unsure if there's something that you desire, right? Speak it, speak it into being. If you don't feel comfortable saying it, it's probably not a manifestation goal. Our words are blessed. Articulating upon what our energetic desire is the fastest way to effectively purify whether something that you aspire for is something that others desire as well. So that modality of understanding and working through that, I feel like this is what we get in relationality to a lot of energy that's building into a sense of healthy confidence. And what's hard for a lot of these world energies right now that are working in solitude is doing that spiritual work, which is identifying and articulating upon the space by which they are finding energetic bliss for themselves, right? Letting go of any of the trauma by which another person not navigating their lack space made they themselves feel lacking, while also articulating and saying our manifestation effectively shield, because the modality by which we express them immediately allows us to break and recognize those, right, that want the things that we want, versus those, again, you're never going to build into a healthy relationship. Express what your hope of the direction of the relationship is, because when another person has the same manifestation goal, right, the modality